This tank is the AMX 1390. This is a French Tier 9 light tank. The map is Highway. I am going to get 5,000 spotting damage in this game. And this is one of the last games that I'm going to play in this tank because I've already leveled up to the AMX 13105 within the last few weeks. So this might be my last game in this tank. So normally when I start out, there is a risk you might encounter another enemy light tank. As you can see, there is a charioteer. So that's why I start out at this primary position. And I have to find a nice place to sit where the enemy can't hit me. As you can see, I'm very vulnerable right there. It's not the best position. And that charioteer is going to... Okay, so he's out of the game. So I start out in this position, but I usually advance to a position a little bit closer to the enemy. I've already got 2,800 spotting damage. That would be nice to take him out. Okay, so I got the kill and the 3 hit points of damage on that tank. So I do like to snipe and spot, so I do look for positions where I can do both. Because of the way they changed the map, it's a little bit more difficult to snipe. And I know I'm not going to be able to hit that Indian Panzer again, and it's probably going to be difficult to get that RU-251. So the only way to get more damage is to head towards the enemy base. Get any of their TDs that are up there. There was a TD that was up there that was aimed at me before, who's out of the game now. Nice. So he's out of the game. Chances are the RU-251 is hiding somewhere. I definitely recommend traveling across the highway. Obviously, you can go this way, but there is a risk. The problem with going out in the open field here is that there's nowhere to hide. If you go across that bridge and you get spotted, you could duck under the bridge, and you got a little hiding spot over there. So that's why I recommend going over the bridge instead. So that RU-251 is probably still in that area hiding. Hopefully we can find him. Got to turn on those binocs. Great thing about binocs is that they do spot tanks right away, so you don't have to sit there and wait for a long time unless the tanks are moving. Up to 3881 spotting damage. Got 1 kill, 450 damage. Now we're getting spotting damage on that AT-15. Remember, he's got a fast-firing gun, so you don't want to sit in front of him too long. Well, it's possible that he's got a fast-firing gun. It depends on, obviously, which AT tank it is. I'm sorry, depends on which gun he has. Okay, so I'm up to 5,000 spotting damage, and the score is 14-1, and the game is almost over. And you can see all we have to do is find that last enemy SPG. And there he is. And that's the game. This tank is the Rheinmetall Panzerwagen. This is a German Tier 10 light tank. The map is Malinovka. I am going to get 5,100 spotting damage in this game. As you can see, I'm already spotting tanks. That's looks like 8 tanks spotted. One of the issues, the game designers want corridor maps. They're against spotting. So they made it so that it's more difficult for your allies to hit enemy tanks at the start of this map. They moved the tanks further apart. So even if you go and spot them, your allies won't be able to shoot at them. And they're really ruining the game because if you think about it, you have your penetration of your gun, the amount of damage you do, your spotting, your armor, all those different things. The armor ends up being the most important. That's the one thing that keeps you in the game. And I will explain. Having a high penetration allows you to kill enemy tanks and win games. However, your allies, you're never having the highest penetration does not make it so that you kill every enemy tank, because your allies are also going to be killing enemy tanks. So having high penetration gives you an advantage, but only so far. But having the strongest armor can make you impenetrable in a game. I need to pause for a second. Okay, I'm back. So the point that I'm making is I sat and I reviewed all of the characteristics that a tank could have, and I determined that having strong armor is the most important in a game because it keeps you alive and it does the most to help you win the game. Okay, so now after I did my initial spotting run, I knew that I might not get a lot of spotting damage at that position. So what I decided to do was a follow-up spotting run. On the follow-up spotting run, at the point that I'm at right now, I got 2,000 spotting damage. Most of the damage was on a Centurion Action X. So I'm going in for another spotting run. You don't want to go through the buildings on your way in as much as possible. You want to stay exposed, and then you want to ride through the buildings on your way back when you're retreating. And you want to use the buildings for cover. You'll notice that I'm going up a little bit higher because I wanted to be able to spot some tanks that I couldn't normally see. And I decided to make my way towards the lower level over here instead of driving through the buildings. And part of it is, if you look at the mini-map, it's better for me to drive near the cliff based on the positioning of the enemy tanks as opposed to driving through the buildings. So you do want to take that into account when you do spotting runs. So one of the issues we have is that a lot of the tanks are actually spotted. There's not a lot of tanks that need to be spotted. So now I have to come up with a new tactic. The score is 2-0. I'm already up to 4,000 spotting damage. I took a lot of damage on the Grill 15. Oh, they spotted me. So the Grill 15 was around 1,500 spotting damage, and the Centurion Action X was apparently taken out of the game. So I made a mistake where it looks like I went into a spotting bush while I was still spotted, and you don't want to do that. What you want to do is go into a safe position like where I was, count to 10 seconds, and then go up into the spotting bush. I am going to get more spotting damage in this game. So now we have a situation where there's a tank there that's got a lot of hit points, but do we have the snipers in positions to hit him, and do they have guns that can damage him? You can see that there's some incoming fire. There's an E100 who can definitely do it, and there's a Leopard 1 who might not have the ability to do a lot of damage to that tank. At the base, there's an STRV who could hit him, and a T110E4, but because he's hiding behind that rock, they're not going to be able to hit him. The tanks that are up on the hill, I can't really get a lot of benefit from spotting them. Maybe that E100 I can spot, but most of the tanks up on the hill, there's little that I can do unless I get behind them and shoot them on the rear flank. So I am concerned about that AMX 13105. I don't know where he is right now. There's a chance he's still in the... Oh, okay, I remember this game. I'm working on a mission to get 8,000 spotting damage, and I was here. Okay, so here's what you should do, and here's what I did do. You look in front of me, there's 3,000 hit points of damage. I've already got 4,700. If I get that remaining 3,000 hit points of damage, I'll get my 8,000. and I'll probably complete the mission. I'm not going to complete the mission in this game. I did complete the mission already in another replay, which you may have already seen. So I know that if you look at the minimap, these two tanks in front of me are at the edge of my spotting range. And they're in a well-defended position. So I knew that there were a few problems here. The problems are that my allies can't really hit them easily because of the rock that they're hiding behind. Number two, they could easily become unspotted, and we don't want that to happen. I want my allies to chase after those targets. If they become unspotted, my allies might give up and focus their attention somewhere else. So I thought I got to get a little bit closer. And I don't know, let's see when I'm definitely going to move to a new position. Let's see when I do it. And we'll find out what I did wrong. I'm up to 4,700 spotting damage. You'll see that the Badger disappeared, and I don't want tanks to disappear. I want them to stay spotted. Oh, there's another tank. Okay, so those three tanks, that's 5,000 spotting damage combined, and they're moving. So I felt the need to move to a closer position, but I got spotted, and that's where the problem comes in. And we lost one of our snipers. So the AMX, he was on the lower level. It looks like he never left that position. It was not wise for him to stay there. It was kind of dumb for him to stay there. He's not very useful in the game by staying in that position because, well, he doesn't know that. That's why you need to count your tanks. So I decided to make another effort. All these tanks, again, are at the edge of my spotting range. There's about 5,000 hit points of damage out there. I'm up to 5,100. I got spotted, and I was taken out of the game. And what I did not understand is how the hell did I get spotted in that bush? It looks like maybe I had gone a little bit too far forward. One of the problems that I have when I play is that you can stay behind the bush and still spot through the bush, and I never do it. I always go a little bit too far, so it was a mistake for me. I believe that the AMX 13105 is moved to a new position where he was able to find me, and that's why I screwed up. Okay, so let's move on to the next video. The score is 9-5. I got 5,100 spotting damage. This tank is a T-54 lightweight. This is a Russian Tier 9 light tank, and the map is Malinovka. I am going to get 4,400 spotting damage in this game, and I'm going to get 4 kills. Now, as you can see, I'm going to a certain position here where I like to spot from. And normally, you do want to move as close to that, close to the left as possible, which is actually eastward, because the tanks that go up into that sniping ridge, you want to be able to spot them. So at some point, you're going to have to move. And the reason why I don't do it right at the beginning is because I don't want to get spotted. I want to make sure I get a lot of spotting damage in before I make that final move. But at some point, I'll probably move my tank forward. I don't know why I just moved it backwards. Maybe I was worried I might get spotted by the Foch. I didn't count how many tanks I spotted, but as you can see, I've gotten spotting damage on 2 different tanks so far. And it's 609 spotting damage. I've played this position quite a bit. There's good things about this position. First of all, you're going to prevent the enemy team from advancing along the south. If they try to advance, they're going to fail. And second of all, you can do a lot of spotting from here, but you're not going to get quite everything. You're going to be able to get a couple thousand, that's for sure. And you have to know when are you going to advance. At some point, you're going to want to advance to the enemy base. When you advance to the enemy base, you might have to fight. The other good thing about this position is you do prevent tanks like that Foch B from taking up a sniping position up on that ridge. And not only do you prevent them from taking a sniping position, but you prevent them from spotting from that ridge. And as you can see from the beginning of the game, there was a tank that tried, it was an ELC even 90 who tried to take up a spotting position, but I got here first. So he was unable to take up that spotting position. in that bush, which helps me out a lot and helps my team out a lot. One thing that's going to happen is tanks like that T-32, they're just going to stay there and hide the whole game. They're pinned down, and they're not going to come out. They know that if they move, they're going to get spotted, and they've got no targets to shoot at. So they're going to sit there. We're going to have to force them out later in the game. You can see he's already spotted. He tried to move, and he already got spotted. He's never going to be able to get out of that position. What he doesn't understand is that he could sneak away if he really wanted to. So now you can see I repositioned so I could get closer to where the Foch is. And the reason why was because I wasn't spotting the Foch. I wanted to put him within my range so I could respot him. It's possible that I spotted him when the binocs turned on. I'm not sure. If you want to confirm that, you can rewind the video and check to see when the binocs came on, to verify if that's when the Foch was spotted. And he's out of the game. So we've got at least 3 tanks at the enemy base: the M4A1 Revolorize, the J Panther II, and the T-32. Obviously, the M4A1 is retreating. He's not doing it the safest way. He should have done it more along the water. Oh, there's an E100. That's interesting. I guess the T-62 must have spotted him. Scores 3-2. I got 2,500 spot damage. I'm going to speed up the game a little bit. Got another hit on that T-32. So the E100 was hit by artillery. Scores 6-4. I got 2,900 spotting damage. Very boring, as you can see. Let's speed it up a little more. Score 7-6. What's painful about this type of thing is I want to help out my team in the north, but I really can't. I actually could leave this position. If I wanted to, I would just turn around, head back to my base, and I'd probably make it without being spotted. If I set up my tank in the right position, I'd probably be able to snipe against that tank also. It looks like that's what I'm trying to do. Set up a sniping position. Yeah, he's out of the game. Scores 9-7. T-32 is still in the same position. So I finally decided to advance. The reason why is because I have support from the STRV and the enemy does not have a tank there. You'll notice that if you're going to run through the enemy base, you want to keep on heading all the way to the back as much as you can. Killed the T-32. Don't stick around. Don't cross over and then stick around. Cross over and get as far behind the enemy as possible. So if they turn their guns around, they can't point their guns at 2 different tanks. So he's going to have to point his gun either towards my allies or towards me. He can't choose both. You can see that he did not point his tank in my direction. He chose to ignore me. There's still a bit more spotting to do. Okay, so I got 3 kills. I'm up to 1,000 damage, and I still have 2,900 spotting damage. That's 4 kills. And the score is 14-7. We got one final tank that's all the way up at the top there. So the in-game is reporting 2,900 spotting damage, but in the after-game it said 4,400 spotting damage. And obviously I got 4 kills. Let's see what happens with this last tank. I'm going to speed up. That would be amazing if I actually was able to spot him at the end here. Okay. So that's going to be the game. And that's it. This tank is the AMX 13105. This is a French Tier 10 light tank. The map is Malinovka. I am going to get 4,000 spotting damage in this game. There are people who think that Prokhorovka does more spotting damage, but for me, that's not the case. For me, I get more spotting damage on Malinovka. I use the World of Tanks replay analyzer, and I get more spotting damage on this map. Now, you'll notice I came to this position, this row of bushes over here. It's going to prevent the team from advancing in the south. We're going to completely control the south. They're never going to be able to advance as long as I'm here. Any enemy tanks that remain at the base area are going to get spotted. They're going to get taken out of the game. And any enemy light tanks that try to remain near the base are going to get spotted. Plus, there is a sniping ridge, which is in the F7 area. That ridge right there, we're going to be able to spot tanks that show up on that ridge also. So we control a large portion of enemy territory, with the exception of the northeast where everyone goes to brawl. We've already got 682 spotting damage in this game. There's another 173. So he's going to figure out at some point that he can't do anything. He can't advance. And really, if you're in that situation, I mean, the IS-7's choice is either to defend the position or to retreat. And if he defends the position, it's not going to do him any good because he's not going to spot any enemy tanks. So really, his best option is to retreat and go fight somewhere else. Now, the question is, are there other tanks on the enemy team that are at the base area? Usually there is. And if you watch these videos, I had a game recently where there was an E100 that was literally right behind that building, that bush right there, who was there for a large portion of the game and wasn't spotted until many minutes had gone by. So some tanks are going to be able to hide well. You see that the Object 140 is trying to advance. Looks like he was able to make it, but he's probably going to get spotted as he moves up into the next position. And from this position where I am, I can shoot at him if I want to, but I run the risk of being spotted, so I'm going to have to hold my fire. Now, when you play in this position, one of the things you have to be aware of is you have to know when to leave this position. You have to keep... Okay, so there's an example. The Object 268 was spotted at the enemy base more than 3 minutes into the game. So you have to keep an eye on where the heavy tanks are in the northeast, and you have to know when that flank falls, because when that flank falls, you got to leave this position. And the way you leave this position is very simple. You just head in that direction towards your base, and if you get spotted, stay in the low area, or you could head that way. You could dive into the water if you get spotted, but I never get spotted, so not something that I need to worry about. But keep your eye on, it looks like we're winning in the northeast. Score is 4-0. I'm up to 2,000 spotting damage. So if you look on the mini-map and you see how we're winning and we're advancing, that tells me that what I'm probably going to do is I'm going to stay here and I'm going to go back behind the enemy base at some point. I'm sure I could easily snipe at those tanks. But I am getting what appears to be the full spotting damage on those tanks. I got 675 spot damage on that Object 430U. You'll notice that I'm moving forward a little bit in order to extend my range. Score 7-1. So I made the decision to start advancing onto the enemy base. Maybe snipe at those tanks. Once they get outside of spotting range, I'll start sniping at them. Let's see if the IS-7 takes heavy fire. It looks like he did. Well, it looks like he did. So the IS-7 got hit for around 600 damage, and I got half of that as spotting damage. Ah, that sucks. Okay, so I didn't get any kills. The after-game results said that I did 4,000 spotting damage, and I did 372 damage on my own. The score is 12-3. We're surely going to win this game. Let's move on to the next video. This tank is the AMX 13105. This is a French Tier 10 light tank. The map is Murovanka. I am going to get 3,100 spotting damage in this game. If you like playing light tanks, the AMX 13105 line, the French light tank line, is one of the best lines, the most fun lines of light tanks to play. One reason is because they have autoloaders. Another reason is because they're agile, they have good mobility. And another reason is they have good concealment because they're rather small tanks. So you can see I tried to go to this position. I did get spotted. And this is a new position that I'm trying to see if I can get any value out of it, because I want to be able to spot for my team, obviously, as well as I can. But since I was spotted, you really only get one chance to roll into that position. I'm going to try to come in for another pass for another position. Let's see what happens. I did get 778 spotting damage already. So it looks like I made it without being spotted. Now the question is, will I get spotting damage? So the answer is no. Those tanks are taking hits and I'm not getting spotting damage so far. That charioteer made a really dumb move. It's not safe to do what he did. If you want to advance, you want to advance to where the houses are, not along the red line. If you're on the south team, you can advance along the red line, but on the north team, you got to go to the houses, which means you're going to be close to the enemy, but at least the houses will block you from being hit. Score 0-2. You can see that we don't have a strong line of defense or offense on the west side. There is a Type 4 heavy, but he didn't come into a fighting position. And it's a very risky position. If the enemy advances, I'm going to get spotted here. Score is 2-4. I only have 1,200 spotting damage. Not a good position right now. But it looks like the enemy's unable to advance any further. So one of the things that you have to learn as a spotter is you want to spot where you have sufficient snipers on your team. And over here, my team is a little bit lacking. There's a lot of enemy targets. You got to have enemy targets. You got to have snipers backing you up. and you have to have the ability to spot the enemy team. You have to have that distance so that your allies aren't self-spotting the enemy. So over here, we have the enemy targets, even though they're leaving the area, but we don't have those snipers backing us up. And what the enemy is doing is they're going around the other side of the hill. Because they're going around the other side of the hill, I'm not going to be able to spot them. So don't expect a lot of spotting damage out of this game, which is probably one of the reasons why I'm only getting 3,100 spotting damage. Now, he does have a gun that does a lot of damage, so I do have to be careful about engaging with him. I could easily open fire with him because the enemy tanks are not going to be able to really hit me. I think I'll be able to get that T-49 and run. We're going to find out right now. So I wasn't paying attention, obviously. I ran into that tank. Score is 7-6, and I got 2,700 spotting damage. Okay. Now, one thing that you can verify... Okay.